Welcome everybody back again to, another one of our four-part series here at the OBS Inner Circle. And, as Alan was saying, it is definitely about building a system that makes great decisions repeatable because that's what this is all about. We can all make one lucky decision, but it's not about that. Like somebody can make a fluke. It's about establishing the protocol and the system that allows us to make these decisions repeatable so we win more often than we lose, right? And, we talked about that through the last week around our biases and understanding those internal biases that we build organically through family influence, through environment, some of it just generic, the way that we've been, brought up. And so it's interesting as we've evolved and we finished the series by bringing it all together and giving everybody here a repeatable system that they can implement and run through both their business or their personal lives to help everybody be consistent in their decision making. But it's funny, I just wanted to do a quick plug since you mentioned Napoleon Hill, Alan, and I just finished reading Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And if you haven't read that book, man, I'm telling you, that is a must.
Oh yeah, I like that one even better than Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah. Oh man, it was amazing. Amazing book. I just finished it up a couple weeks ago. Drifters. That's right, Bryson. All about that, man. And that it's interesting as I make the tie-in to decision making, right? And it's, in the book it talks about drifters and how quickly they're influenced to just be swayed. And it's because they don't have those formal foundations, and that they're steady with with who they are and what they want to accomplish, and those goal-minded trajectories. And this framework helps us be consistent in that and help stay our strong footing. So yeah, just thought I'd make that connection because you mentioned Napoleon Hill, and one of my favorite authors. All right, now let's kick it off. Think about the best decision that you have ever made. Not the luckiest one, not that fluky one, but the best one. Just take a moment, think about that. Now think about how you made it. Was it part of a deliberate system? Did you follow a process? Did you check your biases first? Or did it just all come together by luck and chance for you? Which one is it? Well, I can tell you that for most leaders, even their best decisions were somewhat accidental. Okay. And they had the right information at the right time. The right people were in the room. They had all of these things, but they generally went with the gut feeling on that day. And we see this consistently. So the goal of this series was never to help you make one great decision. The goal was to build a system that produces great decisions consistently, deliberately, every time, right? And so today, that system gets built for you. So let me close that loop on the three tools that you now have. In week one, we talked about the decision audit, and it gives you clarity on what's on your plate and what belongs to someone else. Essentially, your understanding of knowing that you don't have to carry all those decisions. The burden is not always on you. You can delegate some of the decision making to those that is more perfectly aligned with their roles. And in the second week, we talked about the decision framework, and that gave you the right process for the right decision, understanding how you selected it based on priority and sequence of priorities, right? And the ones that you can make, and pivot, the ones that don't cost or that have low impact, and understanding how you worked around the quadrant. And then we moved towards a framework that helped you make sure that you eliminated over analysis on small calls and under analysis on the critical ones. Last week, we talked about the bias blockers, and this was a personal pre-decision checklist that catched the sort of natural shortcuts in trying to corrupt your judgment before a call is made. Essentially, the hard wiring that we all have in our heads based on experience and our upbringing or influence. And that's why we make these biased decisions. Today, we call it the decision operating system because what we're about to show you is a tool that you can use daily, weekly, and quarterly so that you have proper rhythms that will make the first three tools automatic and in sync, and most importantly, not occasional. These actually become everyday tools for you to use. So we encourage you to please go to the community, download the worksheets because it's in the tools that you'll learn how to apply these. We appreciate that you're on the call. The calls are amazing. You're getting some good, tutorial, but the actual takeaway is in the worksheets because that's how you put pen to paper and you start to utilize them. Okay. So again, it's just ensuring that you understand and follow along. After we're done here, go get the worksheet because it'll help put it all together for you. So why a system and not just a skill? The answer is quite interesting, but it'll close it and make sense for you. A leader who improves their decision-making skill without building a system will make better decisions sometimes. When they are rested, when they have time, when the pressure is low, when the right people happen to be in the room. But decisions do not only arrive in those best ideal conditions, right? They arrive when you're tired. They arrive when your calendar is full, when the stakes are high, when data's missing, when the pressure is on you. And that is when systems matter the most. Because let's all face it, raise your hands. You're an entrepreneur, you're a business unit leader. How often is the ideal setting for you to make a decision? How often do you see that? Not very often. You're generally pressed by people, environment, or the circumstance to make a decision and fast. And that's when you have to have the right system and the right tools to help you make those decisions. The operating system does not require ideal conditions. It works because it runs on rhythm, not on inspiration. So one better decision is worth something. And a system of better decisions compounds over time, which is the goal we're trying to do here. Fewer reversals, faster cycles, better delegation, reduced decision fatigue, right? This is all about organizational trust because, and any of us that are dealing with clients or that are dealing with direct people, we know once your trust gets burned, you won't make that back. And if you're lucky enough to get a second chance, it takes twice as long to establish trust. So best that you are systematic about your decision making and your approach because that is what the system produces, and that's consistently time after time after time. And that's what builds trust. So important that we recognize that as leaders going in. Now, there are four layers. You guys know I like systems. You know I like to break it down. And so there are four specific layers to each of these, to this system. And each one builds on the previous. So together, they complete a personal decision architecture. Okay. Layer one. So get your notepads ready, or make sure you have your AI note takers ready to go. Okay. Is the daily decision rhythm. And the daily decision rhythm answers one specific question. What decisions get made when and at what level and by whom every single day? There are two moment anchors in the day, the morning and the end of day. So we call it the morning scan. Any of those people that have worked along my teams understand that I have a daily huddle. This daily huddle is critical for me, and I start, the day with midday with that huddle. But before I do that, I do a morning scan, and I spend the first 15 to 30 minutes of my workday reviewing open decisions from the previous day. And I look to close or advance on each one of those throughout the day. That's the goal. So I identify one decision that most needs to be made that day today. Which one? Which one's my critical decision that I have to make today? And then I classify it using that week two framework that we talked about and understanding how do we leverage that before I touch anything else. Then I go to commit all visible type 1 decisions to that same day close. Remember, type 1 were the ones that I could delegate to somebody else that they didn't belong to me, right? Those I'm trying to remove those off my plate. and make sure that I am very much focused on those type 4 activities, the ones that are high decisions, high risk, high reward, and that are critical, right? So you're not done planning here, but you are setting your decision agenda. And then at the end of the day, 5 minutes is all you need, 3 specific questions for you to take home at the end of the day. And is, what decisions did I make today? What am I carrying into tomorrow that should not cross the night? Meaning, is there still left anything urgent that I've left that I need to deal with so I'm not up all night thinking about it? Okay. And what decisions do I need to run through the bias checklist before I make it tomorrow? 5 minutes. Don't overthink this. This is not such deep thought that it's going to require hours. Once you get into a rhythm of doing this every day, you'll find that the daily rhythm's primary job is to empty the plate. Not perfectly, but consistently. Because a decision made is lighter than a decision deferred, even when it's imperfect. And what happens with most of us is we don't make the decision. We let that plate get fuller and fuller and fuller. And ultimately, it becomes a weight that we carry nonstop. So learn the process of implementing this daily habit, reviewing it in the morning for what is the most critical that you have to close. And at the end of the day, what is something that you have to look to delegate? What is something that is urgent that's still left for you to close? And then doing a bias check-in for yourself before you make the decisions that are still lagging. Okay. Second layer, as we go deeper into this process, is the weekly decision review. This is where you now look at it from a weekly standpoint. This is a little bit longer. This is generally that end of the week. I like to do it end of the week, Friday afternoons. You hear me call this a clarity break from time to time. Those of you that have been, part of our Compass group, you'll hear me call it the clarity break. It's 30 minutes, same time every week. It's non-negotiable. It's a time block with yourself. Its purpose is to close open items in advance stalled decisions and identify what should be delegated that again has not. But now you're looking at it from a weekly lens, not from a daily lens. These are a little bit larger projects, right? Little harder decisions that you have to make. There's 3 parts to this weekly review. And part 1 is open decision review. Of those 30 minutes, your first 10 minutes should be list all decisions currently open and unresolved. For each one, classify the type, assign the next action, and set a deadline. Remember the types? Urgent or not urgent, right? Like going through your quadrants. And if anything has been open for more than 2 weeks, ask why. This is a pretty important self-reflection moment because it'll tell you if you're avoiding it. Is it avoidance? Is it that it's still open because you've assigned it to the wrong owner? Or you're still missing information? Name the right reason, please. Well, as you know, we always talk about being open and honest here with yourselves first. Do not try to sugarcoat it or lie to yourself. You know the real reason why things haven't been done. And some of us, it's our own doing. But make sure you understand that. Part 2 is the delegation audit. And again, this is the second part of that 30-minute check-in and review. What decisions did I make this week that someone on my team should have made? It's a quick run through. Name them. Name the person who should own them going forward. This gives you a consistent review framework so that you again are not tasked with carrying all that weight. You have hired critical people in your teams. Learn to leverage them. They're there for a reason. They need to be developed. And the only way they're going to be developed is by you passing them the work and the opportunity to learn and act. And sometimes, yes, that means making mistakes, but that's okay. Okay. You know how to delegate smart. You're not leaving those urgent critical decisions to someone who's not skilled at doing that or not ready for that. You've been taught how to do so. Okay. But communicate that transfer by the end of the week. People need to know you're delegating that responsibility to them. All right. Now, this is the single most powerful 10 minutes of your week. This is where capacity gets reclaimed systematically. This is where you get your time back. Any of you that have like read that Don Martell book, Buy Back Your Time, well, it's in that same concept. It's delegating and buying back your time and understanding which ones are priorities that you need to make and ones that you don't. Third part of this is decision quality review. Okay. This is 10 minutes. Again, what significant decisions did I make this week? Did I apply the right framework type? Did I run the bias checklist before the critical ones were made? What would I do differently making the same call again? This is all sort of playing like devil's advocate in a way, but not to be like a critic of yourself. This is more calibration. Okay. And this is more of like tuning things up, understanding what are some of the opportunities that you could get 1% better at. You know, I coach football and we're coaching these Pee-wee kids in here. They're like 12 and 13-year-olds. And we are challenging them with every practice, every game, get 1% better, 1% better every day, right? Every practice. This is the same thing as us. We're business owners, we're leaders. What we need to be 1% better every week. And just looking at how do we tweak it? What can we do to get that 1% better? Because the consistency of the rhythm is what makes it work. Okay? Every week, no exceptions. Block that time with yourself. It's that critical time for you to reflect and really be able to plan ahead. The third layer is the delegation framework. And you can tell that a lot of this is built on delegating to be able to help you, again, free up that time. Now, delegation is where most leaders' decision systems break down. And I know I've heard this from some of you in my conversations, and this is a tough one for most leaders to make because they hand things off without clarity and end up re-owning that decision when it comes back unresolved. Right? I know I've seen this. I've lived it. So I can tell you from experience, if we're not clear in how we hand things off, it will bounce back right back to your desk eventually. And sometimes it comes back worse than when you left it, which is why you feel like you got burned and now you don't want to delegate again. So we're going to teach you how to do this in 4 parts because it's critical that you learn this so that when you're delegating these decisions making to others, you set them up for success. Part 1 is clear ownership. It's one name who owns it, not a team, not someone on the team, one person. It's Bob. Bob, this is your decision to make, not, hey, operations team. Okay? Say it specifically. Bob, the decision's yours, not mine. Kevin, you're in the room. Kevin, it's no longer Sean's, it's yours. Kevin, this is your decision to make. Clearly define the scope. What does this person own? What do they not own? What decisions within this area are theirs to make and what requires escalation? Bob, I need you to book that call. Don't make the decision. Just simply book that call with that vendor, with that client. That's all I need you to do. When we get the call, we'll collaborate on the decision making. But for now, I just need you to book it. Simple, delegated. Now Kevin understands what he's got to go do, or Bob understands what they got to go do. They don't have to make the decision, they just got to go book the call, right? If you can't book the call, Bob, get me involved or get somebody else involved. We'll help, get that call booked up with that client or that vendor. Pretty straightforward, right? Part 3 is set a clear deadline. When does this decision need to be made by? What is the check-in point before the deadline? And clear accountability, right? So simple but direct. I need this done by X date. And you, if you say do it by the end of the week, don't show up on Friday and ask if it's been done. Follow up on Wednesday. Be like, hey, that thing I asked you to do, that vendor meeting I asked you to book, how's it going? Don't don't hit that person with a Friday morning question. Do a check-in on Wednesday. That teaches consistently and repetition. Okay. And again, so what does that update do is it makes sure that the decision is made with enough time. Okay. So that's part of what we want to teach you today. And then the most important rule in the delegation framework, When someone returns with what I should do, this is a critical, very important. Do not answer the question. Stay quiet. When someone returns with what I should do, ask instead, what do you think we should do? And then let them answer. See what comes back to you, right? Don't answer it, because what's happening here is that you're not just transferring the decision, you're building decision-making capability in your team. And every time you answer that question, guess what? You just took it back and you undid everything else. It was psychological. You just undid it. Okay. And now you're back to square one, starting again. So practice it. It's okay to ask the questions. No one's going to judge you or think that you don't know the answers or question your leadership skills. Actually, it's going to be quite the opposite. It's going to be viewed as very positive by the right people in your teams, those that are hungry to make decisions, those that are wanting to make decisions, but they're sitting in the sidelines, like scared to, or afraid that they're going to get reprimanded if they make the wrong decisions. And this gives you an opportunity to coach. You see what I mean? This, when somebody has the floor and they could say, well, what should I do? Okay, here's my answer. This is what I would do. Now it opens an opportunity for you to say, hey, good, great idea. I like how you're approaching this. But what if you try it this way? Try this, try that. Now you got thought process. Now the wheels are turning and you're able to engage it versus you just giving them the answer and then they walk away with no growth and no real experience learned. Okay. So it's important that we understand how this layers out. Now, the fourth part, the fourth layer of this decision, framework is the quarterly decision calibration. That's a fancy name for saying a quarterly check-in. This is where you spend some good time with, again, yourself, 60 to 90 minutes every 90 days. And the purpose of this is to evaluate the quality of the decision making that you've done over that quarter. Careful not to judge the outcomes because let's just face it, we can all get pretty lucky, okay? So take the luck out of it, but focus on the process. Did you follow the process? That's what I want you to check instead, not the results, because the process isn't entirely up to you if you used it, right? Like that's the checkpoint here. It's not did I get the right result? Sure, you could have, but that could have been fluky. That could have been because of other people, could not have been because of you. I want you to check in on the process. How tight are you leveraging the tools around decision making? So we ask yourselves the following questions. Audit your significant decision. List the five to top most significant decisions over that 90-day period. And through each one, right? What was it? What process did you apply? What bias, what bias may have operated in that decision making? And what was your quality rating from 1 to 5 to each one of those, right? Because you want to identify patterns in which decision type did you handle the best that quarter? Which one was the worst? Which bias showed up the most? Did the checklist catch it? What took too long, right? All this, what went too fast? All this so that you can have that opportunity to recalibrate your skill sets, your delegations. Which decisions did you make this quarter that belong to your team? Or which delegations worked? That's what all this is about. Okay. Now, one important note on evaluation and the evaluation is to evaluate that process, not the outcome. A good process can produce bad outcomes because of factors outside of your control, while a bad process can produce a good outcome because of luck. So if you evaluate outcomes, you will reinforce lucky and bad processes and abandon unlucky good ones. So once you are evaluating this process, you improve the process. Again, that 1% better mentality in the outcomes follow over time. Okay, so is this all making sense so far? Cool. I'm going to give you a live example, okay, as well to make sure that we can, kind of see how this works live. A CFO at a $22 million professional service firm making 60 to 80% of the decisions per week. Most of them were tactical level, like baseline level decisions, leaving no capacity for the strategic calls that actually mattered. The trigger was a missed vendor contract renewal that sat unreviewed for 3 weeks. This was not a one-time error, as we found. It was what her decision system lacked, and therefore it produced a missed gap here. So here's what we built. We taught her how to do the 15-minute morning scan in the mornings at 8 a.m. and a 5-minute end of day. We taught her every Monday or every Friday, whichever one was the best for her, to spend those 30 minutes in reviewing the weekly activity and understanding the non-negotiables. And she quickly identified 14 reoccurring decision categories that she'd been owning all along that her direct reports should have owned. So she transferred 11 within 30 days using the 4-part delegation standards that we talked about and kept 3. As she continued to do this over time, she identified her dominant bias was overconfidence. And this was critical for her because she understood then what she needed to do to tackle that overconfidence pattern. And she went to work on it. 6 months later, her weekly decision load had reduced 60 from 60 to 80 down to 18 to week to 22. So she'd come down to 22 different ones, the ones that actually required her to make those decisions. Her direct reports were now making 85% of the operations decisions independently, away from her, which was key because now she knew that she didn't have a workload problem, which was her initial thought. What she identified is that she had a decision making system problem. So she went to work and now she's got all that fixed and is able to systematically scale her business and make better decisions week in and week out. Now, as we close, 4 weeks ago, you had decisions sitting on your plate. I'm sure some of you still do. A lot of us do. And that there had been there for months. You had a process, or maybe, like most of us, as you're learning, you probably had no process. You just simply had intuition and you had experience. Plus, you had your handy biases that you could not see. So here's what you have now. Now you have a decision audit tool. So nothing sits on your plate that should not be there. You have a decision framework. So you never apply the wrong rigor to the wrong call again. And you have a bias blocker. So your judgment does not become hijacked by patterns you cannot see in the moment. Now we close it all together with the decision operating system so that all of this runs on rhythm and not inspiration. So this is not just a better way to make decisions. This is a better way to lead. Because here's an open and honest truth. Every person who follows you as a leader, is watching how you decide. They're not watching the types of decisions that you make. They're watching how you decide. Because it's not just what you decide. Again, it's how you go to making your decisions. The quality of your decision making is the model they're learning from. So if you're leading people, you're teaching them the same mistakes that you may be making. So why not teach them good output so that they can make better decisions? Build it well, run it consistently, and watch how this compounds throughout your organization. That's the 4-part series. That's the framework for today. I'll send it back to you.
Whew. I wrote so many notes on my page, I can't decipher my page. Like my chicken scratch is terrible. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this for sure. I know that this session, not this session, I know that this series is one that I have to go back on and really get. I need a system for decision making. You just said recently, just a couple minutes back, probably none of us have a real system for making decisions. I probably would agree with that. I know I don't. I think it might be rare for the person to be able to put up their hand in any room and say, "Oh yeah, I have a system. It's a provable system, and I make great decisions all the time." I doubt
Yeah.
you would do that. You know what really hit me right off is one of your last phrases you just said. Everyone, so everybody on our team around us, they watch how we decide. That's kind of got me floored right now. I'm a little speechless on that. It reminds me of, like our children, for those of us that have
Hmm.
children. It's they watch everything and they watch more than we think that they're watching. And they are and so my team, my people, I'm actually setting them up, teaching them, training them inadvertently to make decisions the way I make decisions, and I don't realize I am. So if I'm really slow to make decisions, and I can't make a decision and I drag it out and I overthink and I overthink and I overthink and overthink and I'm analysis by paralysis and I can't pull the trigger on a decision. I'm actually training them to do the same. Oh my God, how frustrating is that got to be? But if I'm the guy on the opposite end of the scale and I'm making very quick decisions and I'm not then making quality decisions because I haven't thought through enough or I haven't, done the right research or asked, advice or whatever, I'm teaching them, training them to make very quick, rash decisions. That's
That's
got me
right.
floored, that concept and that statement right there. Anyway, anyway,
Yeah,
this is
it's crazy, right? When you start to think about some of these things, but it is exactly the way that it happens because we we naturally will just do what has been taught to us
yeah.
and what we learned from others when it came to decision making. So think about it. Like, where did you learn decision making? You didn't learn it at school per se. You learned it through your family. You learned it through those peers around you. And that's,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
you're right. And it's like everything I say to people, a lot of say, did you go to school to learn your native tongue? So let's just say English. Most of us are English speaking. Did you go to school to learn English? Or did you know how to speak English before you got to school? And, almost 100% of the people, unless they're immigrants from somewhere, oh, no, I knew how to speak English before. Well, where did you learn that? Well, I just picked it up, right? We picked it up from mom and dad because we're in the environment. Same thing. All the years I went to school and then university, nobody taught me the proper way on how to set a goal
Hmm.
that actually sets me up for replicatable success every time. Nobody ever taught me that. So where did I ever learn to set goals? From my family, from the work environments that I found myself in. Is it any wonder that most people can't set a goal that has set them up for success? Same thing. How did we learn to make decisions? Just we picked it up from the environment around us.
Yeah.
And even like you said, for some of us, we don't do well delegating that segment one, that quadrant one. We're making decisions that are none of our business to make. We should be delegating them, but we don't know to do that, or we don't have a system to do that, and so I train my people to make decisions that aren't theirs to make, or they should be delegating when they can't, or they won't be because I'm the one that taught them. That's just got my mind blown. Anyway, let's get off of me.
Yeah,
Let's just
absolutely.
it's gonna kaboom me.